The whole time?
I'd no idea Johanna was involved when we found the Hand of Glory. Performing self-surgery. I pray she was already undead by then.
And now you've got a rogue hand on the loose causing trouble.
Well, that raises a question of independent will.
You mean this Hazenkas's hand have a mind of its own?
The diabolical mind that spawned it is my main worry. We'll stop Johanna. We must. Now, what do you have to say for yourself?
Did I miss something?
Since we're here to gather flowers for the dead, I thought I'd teach Manfred some plant names. But I just caught him attempting to wade into a rose bush.
That must have been frustrating.
He knows he's not supposed to play in the horticulture. Oh, Manfred. Whatever will happen to you if I pass on?
If?
There's something I'd like to talk about. Do you know what a lich is, Rook?
Doesn't ring a bell.
A lich is a mage transformed into one of the undead while retaining their true, original consciousness. The idea fascinated me when I was younger. For years, I researched and experimented, spoke with spirits and mages. Then, eventually, I found them.
Who?
The Lich Lords of the Grand Necropolis. Necromancers before me who'd transformed themselves into true living dead.
Well, not everyone gets to meet their idols.
Oh, but I was nervous. The Liches are the great protectors of the necropolis, bulwarks against forces that threaten creation. After years of tests and rituals, they granted me my desire, the right to attempt lichdom.
You want to become undead?
Lichdom is no ordinary path to undeath. It's far more than common possession.
Oh, that makes it fine then.
Lichdom is an incredible honor. Immortality, prestige, the most hallowed ranks of the Watchers, as well as a chance to be of service past my allotted years. But there are considerations. Come, we have flowers to gather for the dead.
Okay, but I've got questions.
Blue creepvine. This will do nicely.
Emmerich, I can't believe you want to die and stuff a spirit into your body.
Liches are different. It wouldn't be a spirit acting in my name. My true consciousness would be housed in my departed flesh.
How?
The Order must keep some secrets. Moon blossoms, famed in verse and song.
Look, what about flowers? Wouldn't you miss smelling them as a lich?
I've been told that while some of my senses will dull, others will become available. Other than that, I can't say if the flowers would still hold their bloom for me. Lichdom serves a purpose. There are dark things in creation, threats to both our world and the Fade. The Liches of the Necropolis have the insight and the abilities to oppose them.
And you're joining them when?
Certain elements have held me back. There's no ready instructions for Lichdom. The steps must be discovered on one's own over years to be fully understood.
Does the spell to become a lich kill you, or do you have to...
No, mercifully, that falls to another Watcher. After my death, my soul will be drawn back into my body instead of moving on to whatever lies beyond.
I still don't think you should do it, but why haven't you become a lich yet?
Even with all my preparations, there's a chance I could die permanently during the rites. What cowardice! The promise of immortality, an end to all my fears, and the final veil stays my hand.
You could try this and die for good? Your plan keeps getting worse.
You say nothing that hasn't hounded me. Traditionally, candidates for Lichdom face one final sifting of the soul. If they avoid it, you saw my old colleague.
Hezenkos. She's a lich.
A half-lich, though that hasn't diminished her powers. Until I stop her plans, I won't possess the peace of mind for Lichdom. Why don't you select the next flowers, Rook?
Sure. So what's a half-lich exactly?
Johanna attempted the rites of Lichdom and failed. Stuck in her in-between state, she is supremely dangerous, but can't learn any new magic.
No wonder Hezenkos was shouting so much. What about the sifting of a soul that Hezenkos avoided?
The spirits of the Necropolis judge whether a candidate is worthy of the power and responsibility of Lichdom.
How'd she become a lich without it? For a Watcher, Hezenkos is pretty harsh on spirits.
We made allowances because of her discoveries. Too many. Spirits are not things to be disposed of.
You really care about them.
They're so susceptible to the world's whims, Rook. Some spirits are dangerous, but how quickly most respond to a bit of kindness or care or simple attempt to understand. For all she's done, I can't condemn Johanna for attempting Lichdom. That freedom from mortality, that divorce from fear. And of course, Time to read all of one's books.
Every mage's dream.
But how she's abused her abilities. Are my intentions enough to... We have enough flowers. There's something I'd like to show you. Here we are.
Oh, so these flowers are for...
Yes. If you could place them on the graves, please.
In memory of Rupert and Eleonora Volkaren, they walk eternity hand in hand.
After I became a watcher, I erected a proper shrine to my parents. When I come to talk, I like to think they listen. Well, don't be shy. Introduce yourself.
Rook, it's a pleasure. Do you remember your parents?
Some memories are bright. Others are akin to those dim, early morning dreams one gets sometimes. Lately, I wondered what they'd think of our current course, the choices ahead.
Your lichdom.
What would they have wanted me to be?
I can tell you what I think they'd want you to be.
What's that?
Happy. You could always speak with your folks, couldn't you?
My parents last saw me as a boy. By the time I mastered my corpse whispering, I was a man. If I woke them, there might be a flash of recognition, or... Besides, if I speak to too many other spirits, Manfred might grow jealous.
Can't have that.
He'd be impossible, I agree.
I heard a strange thing, Emmerich.
It's simply not true that Manfred's doing my laundry. He's got tangled in a bedsheet, and Tash mistook that for...
Not that. I heard you're preparing for some big necromancy rite.
I didn't say anything.
I believe you, Rook. But how...
You talk out loud to yourself a lot, Emmerich.
Ah, oh dear. The rite is a difficult, delicate thing. I promise to explain it if I succeed.
I get you. Good luck.
Wonder what their story was.
I could ask, if you'd like.
Stumbling. The steps. Skeletons saw. Oh. No choice. Had to be brave. Had to be brave. Too late to cry. So many graves.
Well met, Rook.
How did you get here?
I did tell you I had my ways through Illuvians when I introduced you to the Inquisitor, did I not?
The Illuvians in general, yes, but not the Dreadwolf's crossroads.
I would think you have more pressing questions at the moment. Questions about Solus and Mythal?
Mythal?
The two gods have always been linked, have they not? First, when Mythal bade her companion spirit to abandon the Fade and take on mortal form. Then, when Solus spilled Mythal's mortal blood, that he might absorb her power as his own.
Wait. How do you know exactly what we saw of Solus's past?
Think upon it, Rook. You saw for yourself in the Dread Wolf's memories. When Mythal stood against the god's manipulations of the Blight, she was betrayed and struck down. Yet she survived and returned ages later to aid the Inquisition in its hour of need. How?
The elven gods had access to magic beyond anything we can imagine.
To be sure, but it matters less what they possessed than what they were. You recall that the first elves were spirits, do you not? Mythal was a spirit turned elven. And when her body was struck down, to spirit she returned. Her essence sheltered in a willing mortal vessel. Over the centuries, she journeyed from host to host, slowly amassing her former power anew. Until once again, she was struck down, on this occasion, by Solus. He absorbed her power, but not her memories.
Then where did they... Wait. You?
As you say.
You're Mythal? That's why the ambient magic around you is so fractured.
Such a flattering picture you paint of this ancient bond.
What? That was like how Elganon and Gillenane can talk in your head, but...
'Twas Mythal you heard, her echoes. Yet I am not the goddess returned.
What are you then?
I once feared Mythal would consume me were I to carry her, but 'twas not so. I remain free-willed and mortal. What I now possess is but a spark of Mythal, shadowed memories through which to sift for meaning. As to our admixture, I suspect you have questions.
You would have met Solus in the Inquisition, right?
I did indeed. 'Twas before I possessed Mythal's memories. At the time, I thought Solus a scowling elven apostate whose sole passion was finding arguments. He heard me, in all my ignorance, expound on the histories of the elven people, explaining legends he had witnessed himself.
Bet he loved that.
'Tis not a memory that brings me pride.
Do you have information we can use against Gillenane or Elganon? Or Solus?
The last time Mythal faced Elganon and Gillenane, she was struck down by the very dagger you now carry.
What about Solus?
You may recall he murdered Mythal's former host to claim her godly might as his own. I hoard no untapped magical secrets, Rook. What I do possess, I share freely with you and the Veil Jumpers.
All right. How can you carry Mythal's soul if you're not an elf?
Her spark has sheltered within both elves and humans who were sympathetic to her in thought and circumstance. Mythal's last host was a woman wronged, trapped by those sworn to love her. We may readily imagine their kinship.
So, there's the soul of an elven god inside you. How does that even happen?
Mythal's last host was my mother, Flemeth.
Oh.
When I learned she intended me to become the next receptacle of an ancient god's soul, I feared naught would be left of my own. It inevitably came to pass on a deep night. I was awakened by the presence of a blaze of magic in the shape of a woman who both was and was not my mother.
This isn't the strangest thing I've heard, but it's close.
'Tis difficult to describe, even now. Mathal's memories were both gift and burden, this blazing woman told me. But I must accept them of my own accord. The decision was paralyzing. What would it mean to become such a host? What would be lost if I refused? In the end, 'twas something in my mother's voice which guided me.
What was that?
Regret. Not the regret of a god, but of a mother who knew she would never see me again. And so, my mind remains my own. What I gained was knowledge, both Mathal's and of those who bore her.
You didn't come out here just to tell me you're Mathal.
I am not Mathal in her entirety, but yes, the Dreadwolf has occasion to visit you in dreams, where he portions out advice. And now, after finding his memories, you have peered into his deepest sorrows. Tell me then, what do you make of Solus?
I should ask you. Mathal knew Solus better than anyone.
I would influence your answer. Or do you mean to discover if I would stand directly against the Dread Wolf were there a need?
Would you?
I shall aid you in any way but that, even had I the power. What has passed between Solus and Mathal? I beg you, do not ask this of me again.
Solus talks a lot about what has to be done, being forced to make hard choices. But it's like he's trying to talk himself into it. I think, deep down, he doesn't entirely believe what he's saying.
'Tis exactly like the old wolf to tie himself into the most intricate knots. 'Tis not malice which made Solus your opponent, but conviction, a belief that only he may halt what he set in motion. Yet Solus was once beloved of Mathal. 'Tis his very loyalty and love for his people that led to the tragedy we now face. You may be in a position to determine how it ends, more so than either of you might realize.
Maybe there's a way we all get what we want.
Do you truly believe such a thing?
Well, maybe at least what we deserve.
If you would shape the outcome of your battle, I've one last secret to share. When Mathal was struck down by the other gods, it was with her own lyrium dagger, the dagger you now carry. Solus recovered it from Elganon, and from it extracted a fragment of Mathal that had lain hidden within its depths. This fragment, a younger sister to the one I carry, if you will, resides here, in the crossroads. I can open the way for you. Find her, survive the encounter, and the essence you obtain will aid you in times to come.
Another fragment of Mathal? In addition to the one inside you?
You are aware of what the word fragment means, are you not? One small piece of many, formed when something greater is broken. The first elves were spirits, as you well know, and when a spirit is broken, it may shatter into pieces, each holding part of the original. Among the ancient elves who became known as gods, Dirthaman and his brother, Falondine, are but one example.
All of that sounded great until survived the encounter.
You know Solus, and have seen Elganon, and memories of Mathal. They are creatures of emotion, as all spirits are. The fragment of Mathal that resides in me lived among mortals for thousands of years. She has grown wiser and more patient. This younger sister has not. She is the essence of Mythal as a god. She is unlikely to listen to polite requests, and though she is but a fragment of the goddess, the battle will test you sorely.
If she's just going to attack us, why tell us about her at all? We have enough enemies already.
A fragment of a god's essence is a powerful thing. It may give you options against Algernon and Gillenane, or against the Dreadwolf himself, should he prove as cunning and treacherous as ever.
What kind of spirit was Mythal before she became an elf? I know Solus is elven for pride.
Mythal enjoyed ruling and having power, but it came not from the overweening desire to crush resistance, as is the case with Algernon. The emotion that inspired her might best be described as benevolence, a guiding hand, inclined to kindness. But like any spirit, when angered or twisted against her purpose, a more violent aspect arose. Where the Dreadwolf's wisdom gave way to pride when the world did not meet his standards, Mythal's benevolence gave way to retribution. After all, when kindness fails, the guilty must be punished.
You would know this aspect of Mythal better than anyone. Could you try talking to her?
I dare say she would attack me on sight.
Spirits can't get along with fragments of each other.
Spirits, certainly. But the aspects of a self-righteous god who have walked different paths for ages? One bears the insult of her betrayal by the Evanurus, and then by Solus, as fresh wounds, insult upon injury. The other once fell in love with an Alamari chieftain and lived happily in a swamp for centuries. Each reminds the other that another path existed, that they could have been wrong, and nothing angers Mythal like being wrong.
If I were to try to talk with her, do you have any suggestions?
She will demand respect, but detest flattery. She appreciates righteous anger, but will not tolerate pity. She is, for want of better phrasing, prickly. But if you are determined to try, then I wish you luck.
Thank you for the information, Morrigan.
I only ask that you reflect upon what I have said. The Dreadwolf is not so apart from the world as he thinks. There, you have the advantage of him.
A god's fragment, sharper than the whole. Prevail, or be sundered completely.
We're getting close to where Morrigan said that other fragment of Mythal was.